I do get anecdotal evidence in my groups about non-native speakers not contributing as much, and so I think that's part of that.
Interesting you mentioned that. So, of course, this is an artificial test. We have the hybrid class. We have this, so I said, hey, could we break out different types of students and see how well they succeed? So here's why I said, turns out non-native A's and B's is at 17%. Native A's and B's are 23% for the overall hybrid course. Lower than so there does seem to be a hit from non-native, even in the course, even giving that extra thing working. And you can graph that out too. So this is percentage of A's and B's. Native speakers, as mentioned, whatever it was, 23 point something. And if you have native speakers, the hybrid and lecture pretty much even out. Now, that's kind of strange for us to remember. It's 70% before, but what's happening here too is over all the semesters and over all types of different students. So here's what happens. When you look at the non-native students specifically, they're actually doing better in large lecture courses. Now, you'd think the video should be helping them, but what exactly the issue that we've found is they complain about the recitation sections. They don't like being put in the group. Some of them, I mean, not all of them, but you know, it provides this sort of very stressful situation. Plus, the large lecture course has principally and always been graded by large exams. So 3 multiple choice exams seem to be an easier hurdle for a non-native speaker to step over than these multiple choice exams, along with quizzes, along with group projects and exercise and all that extra added stuff seems to be maybe too much. Maybe. Interestingly enough, it doesn't just stop with non-native speakers. We found the same thing for engineering majors. Great. Who also are sort of well known for having issues with social kinds of interactions. I'm sorry, no offense, and we don't have any way of interviewing that way as it goes. But if you look at the School of Engineering, they preferred the large lecture course and actually did better in the large lecture course. Who doesn't have a problem with the hybrid class? USB, by a huge margin.
What is USB?
USB is the basically undecided majors, so open to admit to university, which we're trying to expand, by the way. So it's if you're, and HHS students, I didn't put them in there, anybody health and human sciences, science students do fine. So anyone with what we call a communal or a person kind of orientation seems to like that interactive recitation working. Plus, they may also have we're running out of time. They may also have a motivation to learn stuff too, which is going to make a difference. So we have this case that maybe the hybrid isn't suited yet. Now we could change it too. We could figure out what's going on here. Data is king. The more you know, maybe we can figure this out. But it's interesting. The people coming in who are undecided love the hybrid course and actually do better. I mean, statistically speaking, if you want to get an A in the class, come on. And native speakers. And by the way, there's our native and USP, as you saw going through. If you're a science major, you do just fine in this course. 39%, and it works out pretty much the same. And psych majors, not surprisingly, do really well in this psych and class. But interestingly enough, they don't do quite as well in the lecture course. So again, the psych major who's coming in with that thing ready to learn, to apply, they find the hybrid course invigorating in a sense. Hey, I can actually do this, and I can help my fellow students learn how to apply this, and boy, I'm going to be a psychologist. And USB, maybe the same thing kind of happens.
Are those like course grade, letter grade in the course,
yep.
A versus B, so that's the overall grade?
Final overall letter grades, corrected for the proportion of students in that class, because one of the things we found is not a lot of, actually a large percentage of engineers sign up for the lecture course in the first place, so you could be running issues with that. The other thing that we noticed, getting back to a year in the program, a very large percentage of last year engineers sign up for the hybrid course, which suggests to me they're just trying to get one last course before they leave kind of thing. And a high percentage of freshmen. And when we look at freshmen, a lot of these percentages shift. So freshmen actually do better in the hybrid class, which also points to this idea that the high interaction is good for somebody who's new to the program, but later on, that could be the other thing. Oh, I'm used to, so a senior engineer who's used to all these large lecture courses gets into the hybrid class and there's maybe just a lot more work and issues than they had. So these are the kind of things we've been playing with. As I said, but it's a pretty dramatic difference. You get engineers, only 16% are getting A or B in the hybrid class, versus 90% of psych majors who this is the best thing since sliced bread for, furthering the major. Which of course gets at the other big issue that I'll leave you with, is the motivation of the student clearly matters. If you're coming into the course wanting to be a psychologist, this can be great. The hands-on activities are yet another thing they're going. If you're coming in thinking of it as a requirement, all that extra stuff is just crap. Why do I have to do all this extra work? I don't see the point of it. This is silly. And students do that, right? So we came up with one other study, and I'm happy to report the actions of. We had them watch the 5-minute video lecture with the captions, because we know captions help. Again, they take a multiple choice quiz, as usual. The difference is we tried to change, or at least manipulate, the motivation students had whilst they were watching these lectures. In one, we gave them the standard academic motivation. You now watch a short industrial organizational lecture video, chapters coming up in the psychology class, and you want to do well on the test. What information will be most important for you to remember? Watch this, see how well you think about it. Test coming up. There's also an application question. Same video, same everything. You now watch a short IO lecture. You want to learn how to apply this stuff in your daily life. Think about how it could be applied. Think about the how would this be useful to you specifically? Then we started getting into little story scenarios, which are kind of fun, right? You're in charge of hiring for a company, and you don't want to get fired. This, as you saw the lecture videos about what's legal and illegal for hiring and firing, you don't want to get fired. So what information you think will be most important for you to pull out of this and remember? So as you watch the video, think of yourself as the hiring person for an HR company. And some work by Jim talks about survival-related things. Being fired is certainly connected to survival, but it's connected to a deeper level of survival, although interestingly enough, being fired is an artificial thing. It's not something that people know a lot about. Another thing that seems to be a big motivator is social acceptance and whether or not you fit in with people. So we did the same kind of thing, only imagine you're in charge of hiring for a company and you don't want your colleagues to be upset with you because you hired a bozo or somebody like that. You need to pay attention. And then what information we remember. So again, short descriptions, no more than a paragraph or two before these 5-minute videos. One hand to say maybe they won't make a difference at all. But changing the motivation can be a big fact. So what do you remember? We know that recall is useful. So we asked them, write down everything you remember from this video. And so really the simple way to do it is just what's the number of characters written? When you ask them, write down everything you remember. And you can see it goes all the way up to 500 characters, which is not a heck of a lot to virtually none. And we'll take a guess. Academic averages out at about 300 characters or so, a little less than that. Want to take a guess? You gonna get fired?
Less.
It's pretty high. Fired? I remember all this stuff. You would be amazed at all the things I remember. Applying. This one I thought was funny. Now maybe it's one of the, they didn't write that much. Now I think it's because when you think about how would you apply this in your life, you spend less time thinking about the content and more about general principles, right? Well, what is the principle of this? So they tend to write more succinct, more.
So this is not correct. This is just
no, this is not correct.
Okay.
Pure thing, right?
I changed my
and we'll get through. Okay, right. And then the social thing, though, I thought was interesting. They're right back up there again. Well, I'm writing a lot of things because I want to make sure I remember everything that was in here because I don't want anybody thinking I'm stupid, effectively. Okay, so now the real question is, we gave the same quiz again. How did quiz answers go? Yes. Average out at 7.6 in this case. It's not great. It's less than a B. Well, less than a C, sorry. Then when we get the firing thing, a little better. We get the applying thing, also, a little better. Then we get the social thing. We're kind of pushing up. So, again, it's like, hey, wait a minute. You could be teaching the same stuff, but depending on where your student's head is at, can make all the difference. And so, what I liked about the social one, though, too, and we have theoretical reasons which I could get into why that would work, is it says that if you set a specific scenario up in the head of the student, you've been assigned as the HR representative for this thing, or the one I like, because you've just been hired by the Indiana Department of Education. Students need to learn literacy. They need to be better literate. We want them to do that. As you watch the following lecture, make sure you think about the ways you can improve literacy in students. It's very specific. It's the kind of thing that they would use. If you want to use developmental, you can say, imagine you were a parent one day and your kid is throwing a fit. What are the kinds of things you would use to do? Watch the lecture. The nice thing is you can give them a specific scenario that is very tied to what they're supposed to be learning. It helps them get their framework, and just like reading a story, You can get inside the shoes of the person. Yeah, I can imagine if I was the HR, boy, I would have to remember this stuff. And by virtue of being relevant to that person, we remember it. And there's a theory of memory that suggests, I mean, how is it we can remember tiny little facts and stories? You know, I watched I read the Twilight books, and there are all these sort of interesting facts that I would love to forget now. But because it was a story, it kind of sticks in there. And apparently, telling students a little story about this and thinking about it as if they were there, as if they care about it, can make a big difference. I mean, going from a 7 to a 10, to a 9, that could be a pretty big difference. So thinking about giving students, it comes back to what we were talking before, giving students the relevant context can make all the difference in the world. Yeah.
Do you have any, I mean, if you did this in class, do you have any backlash? Because like, I'm not one of my students' bros, so I can't always like socially engage them.
I think they're more
they're not
activities
in a working situation. Anyway.
You mean like the stories?
Yeah, the stories. Yeah. Because
Well, I think it's not uncommon to give them exercises to do.
Yeah,
Get
yeah.
used to that. And especially if it's not depending on them as a team. The social thing, by the way, is it's not that like your group, you don't want your group to be disappointed in you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more, just imagine you're working for this particular situation and you have a lot of coworkers and you don't want to let them down kind of thing. It's about motivating you to pay attention to that sort of stuff. So I think that would work. But again, we don't know. I mean, this was an empirical study that we did with, hey, could we, because one of the things when I'm chopping up the lectures, I want to provide a little introduction to the lectures and to the learning objectives. So I thought, what if it was a little story? Okay, imagine you're like this. Here's the concept we want you to apply. Now watch the following lecture and see if that leads to greater learning. So it could, but yeah, we'll see. To be continued. So those are the kinds of things that seem, the little things that seem to make a big difference in student success. Class format, hybrid format, captions, apparently the kind of student matters though as well as maybe most importantly, finding that motivational pick, finding something that makes them pay attention and learn. That's a good thing. Yeah. I do have one last graph, but we'll skip that. If you do the percentage of A's and B's, native, non-native, our online folks did pretty good. So I ran an online version of this class. They actually did better online by quite a bit. But maybe I'm just a really soft reader. But I like to think it's because you can give them immediate feedback on what they're doing, and we gave them specific scenarios. Give a specific example from your life of how this would apply. We did it for every single student and get them feedback in a small 50-person class. And so I think that could be good.